At age 70, Michael Anthony is finally speaking out about the hidden stories behind Van Halen's famous rise and the complicated relationship he had with Eddie Van Halen. A recent chat with Anthony revealed behind-the-scenes pranks, such as fire extinguisher-filled hotel adventures, and shed light on the dynamics that led to his exit from the band. Besides discussing how emotionally distant he'd become from Eddie, he also mentioned that they never had the chance to do so before Eddie's death. Anthony said he admired Wolfgang Van Halen's singing journey and how reconnecting with him helped him heal from past problems. On this episode of Past Paradise, we'll delve into Michael Anthony's honest confessions, offering a fresh perspective on Van Halen's impact and the human stories that shaped one of rock's most iconic bands. Van Halen, the band that changed rock forever. Even now, Van Halen is regarded as one of the most influential rock bands of all time. Their electric shows and innovative sound helped shape the genre. When they started in 1972, Eddie Van Halen's innovative guitar playing propelled the band to fame in the rock music world with hits like Jump, Panama, and Runnin' with the Devil. Their high-energy shows and dynamic lead singers, David Lee Roth and later Sammy Hagar, made them famous worldwide. Although Eddie Van Halen died in 2020, his son Wolfgang has carried on the tradition with his band, Mammoth WVH. In 2025, Netflix released Van Halen Behind the Music, a documentary that examined the band's rise, struggles, and lasting impact on rock history. There's no denying their impact. They've inspired generations of artists. The sound of Van Halen, how they revolutionized music. Today, in 2025, it's impossible to deny Van Halen's impact on rock music. Eddie Van Halen's innovative guitar playing, Michael Anthony's strong bass lines, and the band's exciting energy redefined the genre. Eddie Harrison's brown sound and creative use of the Frankenstrat guitar marked the beginning of a new era in guitar playing, an influence that's shaped artists for generations. By combining hard rock, pop, and powerful leads, the band stood out in the late 1970s and early 1980s. Classic records have been reissued, and a new album called So This Is Love song was released in 2025. An upcoming world tour in 2025 will further solidify Van Halen's reputation, showcasing that their groundbreaking sound will never go out of style. Michael Anthony's role in Van Halen's success. The efforts of Michael Anthony primarily shaped Van Halen's signature sound. His unusual bass playing complemented Eddie Van Halen's famous guitar playing, and his high-pitched backing vocals were an integral part of the band's harmonies. Despite leaving Van Halen, Anthony remains a recognized rock musician. In 2024, he reconciled with Wolfgang Van Halen and made amends for whatever had happened between them. Although he isn't working on Van Halen's supposed 2025 record, his music continues to inspire new artists. The 2025 Netflix special about Van Halen will explore Anthony's role in the band's success, solidifying his place in rock history. Eddie Van Halen's genius, a deep dive. 2025. Eddie Van Halen's talent continues to shape the music world. His self-built wonder, the Frankenstein guitar, changed the way electric guitars are made forever. His one-handed hitting style, as showcased in Eruption, remains a standard for musicians. Eddie's impact goes beyond just his playing. He helped create new sounds and instruments that have influenced many musicians. Wolfgang Van Halen recorded in 2025 using Eddie's famous guitar and continued his father's work. An upcoming Netflix documentary, Eruption, the Eddie Van Halen story, will delve into his life and legacy. Honors for his 70th birthday earlier this year confirmed that he's one of the best musicians ever. Eddie's brilliance will never be matched, guaranteed. Van Halen's greatest hits, the stories behind the songs. Classics like Jump, Panama, and Eruption are brought to life in updated versions that make Van Halen's biggest hits even more popular in 2025. Generations of guitarists have been influenced by Eddie Van Halen's two-handed tapping technique in Eruption, which remains a defining moment in rock history. A significant departure from their previous synth-driven rock songs was Jump, their first and only #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Panama, a song about a race car, showcases the band's genuine energy. A new album featuring rare live recordings sparked renewed interest in their music in 2025. Through a Netflix series that tells the stories behind these songs, Van Halen's music continues to shape rock culture, showing that their impact will last forever. The evolution of Van Halen's sound. Their sound has evolved, adapting to new musical styles while remaining true to themselves. From their powerful start in 1978 to the end of their career, the band stood out for mixing hard rock, pop, and superb technical skill. Rock guitar playing was changed forever by Eddie Van Halen's Frankenstrat guitar and two-handed tapping style. For their planned 2025 record, Van Halen offers a new take on their classic sound, combining modern production with their trademark energy. Trailer for Netflix documentary Van Halen Behind the Music, which explores how their sound evolved and the creative challenges that influenced their work. While Van Halen's 2025 world tour is still a ways off, their sound continues to inspire, demonstrating that their influence remains strong. Van Halen's impact on rock and roll. As of 2025, Van Halen's impact on rock and roll can't be denied. The music business was transformed by their high-energy shows, innovative guitar techniques, and records that defined new genres. Eddie Van Halen's two-handed tapping method changed the way people played guitar and inspired future generations of players. They became known for the rhythmic backing singing that Michael Anthony provided. Van Halen's influence is still felt today, as a new record is set to come out in 2025. This band's music is still played on rock radio stations, and you can hear their impact in current acts. According to rumors, Van Halen is expected to return with a world tour in 2025. They had a significant impact on music history, and that impact will last forever. Behind the scenes, life on tour with Van Halen. Touring with Van Halen has always been a legendary experience, and in 2025, the band continues to captivate fans worldwide. Their travel is defined by their high-energy shows, complicated stage sets, and random moments backstage. Wolfgang Van Halen, who's now crucial to preserving the band's history, has discussed the intense practices and bonding moments that make each show memorable. Despite past disagreements, former members like Sammy Hagar and Michael Anthony remain involved in the rock scene. Hagar even wrote a song about Eddie Van Halen based on a dream he had. Fans are looking forward to the electric atmosphere that's made Van Halen shows famous as the band starts its 2025 tour. The rise and fall of Van Halen. Among music's most interesting stories is Van Halen's rise from rock stardom to inner turmoil. They gained fame quickly thanks to Eddie Van Halen's innovative guitar playing and David Lee Roth's captivating stage presence. Their 1984 record solidified their standing, but things began to unravel when Roth left in 1985. A time of continued success during Sammy Hagar's tenure, but problems led to his departure. Eddie's health problems and various band changes made their impact even more difficult. Van Halen, a rock legend reborn, a 2025 Netflix documentary, examines their highs and lows. Although Van Halen broke up, their legacy lives on with Wolfgang Van Halen leading the way. Their music continues to inspire people, demonstrating that their fame endures. Van Halen's legacy, what they left behind. 25 years later, Van Halen's influence remains strong, continuing to shape rock music and inspire new generations. Eddie Van Halen's innovative guitar techniques, such as tapping with both hands, continue to influence artists worldwide. Van Halen, a rock legend reborn, a Netflix documentary about the band's rise, struggles, and lasting impact, honors their significance. As a successor, Wolfgang Van Halen continues to make music while also recognizing his father's accomplishments. Their planned record and world tour in 2025 will continue to solidify their place in rock history. The fact that their music remains timeless, despite past problems, demonstrates that Van Halen's impact will never fade away. Innovation, energy, and a sound that marked an age are what they left behind. Pasadena beginnings. How Van Halen was born. Van Halen's journey started in Pasadena, California. in 1962 when Eddie and Alex Van Halen moved there with their family. Although Eddie initially learned to play traditional piano, he quickly transitioned to the guitar and developed his unique style. The brothers' first band was called Broken Combs, and they played under names such as Genesis and Mammoth before settling on Van Halen in 1973. It was completed by the addition of David Lee Roth and Michael Anthony, making it the group that would define rock history. By naming a new stage after Van Halen in 2025, Pasadena will continue to honor the band's history. Celebrations of the band that changed rock music forever continue to take place in their hometown. Michael Anthony's journey to rock stardom. Starting in the 1970s, Michael Anthony became a rock star when he joined Van Halen and contributed to the creation of their distinctive sound. His unusual bass playing and rhythmic backing vocals helped the band gain recognition. After Anthony left Van Halen, he continued his musical path by collaborating with Sammy Hagar in Chickenfoot, a popular band of the late 2000s. He reunited with friends all over the world on Hagar's The Best of All Worlds tour in 2024. Longtime fans were excited when Anthony hinted at new Chickenfoot music in 2025. Unquestionably, he had a lasting impact on rock music, which shows that his rise from Van Halen to solo fame solidified his status as a rock hero. Eddie Van Halen's early years, the making of a guitar legend. Before Eddie Van Halen became a guitar superstar, his family moved to Pasadena, California, from the Netherlands in 1962. Although Eddie started out learning classical piano, he quickly became interested in playing the guitar and developed his famous two-handed tapping style, which would change rock music forever. By the early 1970s, he and his brother Alex had founded Van Halen and were playing in local bars while refining their sound. Built from spare parts, Eddie's Frankenstrat guitar became a famous symbol of his creativity. Eruption, the Eddie Van Halen story, a Netflix documentary released in 2025, examines his early life and enduring influence on music. Others are still inspired by his talent, showing that his influence will last forever. The Garage Days, Van Halen's humble beginnings. It all started in a small garage in Pasadena, California, where Eddie and Alex Van Halen honed their skills before they became famous rock stars. They practiced their sound at backyard parties in the early 1970s before getting gigs at local clubs. Eddie's breakthrough guitar skills, such as his famous two-handed tapping, developed from hours he spent practicing nonstop. With David Lee Roth and Michael Anthony joining the band in 1974, it was officially called Van Halen. In their garage days, they created music that would later become their hugely popular debut record, released in 1978. 25 years later, a YouTube video featuring rare film footage and interviews looks back at their humble beginnings. Their early problems and commitment helped them become rock legends. How Michael Anthony met Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen and Michael Anthony met for the first time when their bands played the same area circuits in Pasadena, California, in the early 1970s. While Anthony was in Snake, Eddie and Alex Van Halen were playing as Mammoth. They got closer when Van Halen needed a bassist, which led to Anthony's tryout. Because Eddie liked his strong bass playing and harmonized backing singing, he was added to the band. Although they had problems later on, Anthony has fond memories of their early bond. 10 years later, in 2025, a Netflix video revisits their first meeting to show how their chemistry helped shape Van Halen's sound. Their work together remains as essential part of rock history as it significantly contributed to the band's success. The struggles before fame. Van Halen's road to success. Many problems occurred in Van Halen's history before they became rock stars. Eddie Van Halen originally came from Amsterdam, but he and his family went to Pasadena, California to pursue the American dream. However, racism and societal differences made his early years hard. The band practiced hard before getting a record deal, playing at backyard parties and small bars. In 1978, their first record gave them a significant breakthrough, but they had to endure years of rejection and financial struggles before achieving fame. This year, 2025, Netflix's Van Halen Behind the Music documentary examines the band's tumultuous rise, featuring exclusive video and interviews. Their determination in the face of hardships made them famous, showing that their problems were what made them remarkable. The first gig, Van Halen's breakthrough moment. In the middle of the 1970s, Van Halen made their big break when they did their first big show at Gazzari's, a popular club on Santa Monica Boulevard. Gene Simmons witnessed their explosive show and helped them record their first demo. Their debut record, Eruption, released in 1978, catapulted them to rock stardom, showcasing Eddie Van Halen's innovative two-handed hitting method. A new record, titled Heritage Unchained, is set to be released in March 2025 and continues Van Halen's artistic legacy. With a world tour set to start in May 2025, they remain very popular. Fans still remember their first show as the event that changed rock history, showing that Van Halen's influence lasts forever. Van Halen's first album, the start of something big. Van Halen's 1982 self-titled debut album marked the beginning of a new era in rock music. Eddie Van Halen's two-handed tapping method, as showcased in hits like Runnin' with the Devil and Eruption, changed the way people played guitar forever. Selling more than 10 million copies, the record catapulted the band to fame. It's reported that Alex Van Halen is leading the work on a new record set for release in 2025, which will feature duets with Steve Lukather. They're also planning to make a special edition version of Women and Children First. Van Halen's first record remains an integral part of rock history, demonstrating that their impact is still substantial. The chemistry between Michael Anthony and Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen and Michael Anthony shared a great artistic connection that contributed significantly to Van Halen's distinctive sound. Eddie's creative guitar playing and Anthony's strong bass lines and rhythmic backing, singing, worked amazingly together, which led to the band's success. Despite the problems they faced later on, Anthony has spoken warmly about their early years together, recalling how easily they connected musically. At 70, Michael Anthony exposes Eddie Van Halen in a YouTube video released in 2025, which examines their relationship and highlights their artistic process and personal challenges. Their relationship is still one of rock's most famous, demonstrating that their chemistry played a significant role in Van Halen's success, even though they never fully reconciled before Eddie's death. The early struggles of Van Halen before the fame. Many problems occurred in Van Halen's history before they became rock stars. Eddie Van Halen was born in Amsterdam, Netherlands. He and his family moved to Pasadena, California in pursuit of the American dream. However, racism and societal differences made his early years hard. The band practiced hard before getting a record deal, playing at backyard parties and small bars. In 1978, their first record gave them a significant breakthrough, but they had to endure years of rejection and financial struggles before achieving fame. This year, 2025, Netflix's Van Halen Behind the Music documentary examines the band's tumultuous rise, featuring exclusive video and interviews. Their determination in the face of hardships made them famous, showing that their problems were what made them remarkable. Michael Anthony at 70. Life after Van Halen. At the age of 70, Michael Anthony remains a recognized rock musician. He thinks about his time with Van Halen as he embarks on his journey. In 2024, he reconciled with Wolfgang Van Halen and made amends for whatever had happened between them. Anthony has spoken openly about his complicated relationship with Eddie Van Halen, even though they never reconciled before Eddie's death. Keeping the spirit of classic rock alive, he still performs with Sammy Hagar. By talking about Alex Van Halen's problems in 2025, Anthony shed light on how the band worked together. Fans continue to honor his contributions to Van Halen's famous sound. Despite the ups and downs, Michael Anthony's impact on rock music will last. Eddie Van Halen's legacy after his passing. Eddie Van Halen's reputation remains stronger than ever in 2025, and his influence continues to have a lasting impact on rock music. Inspiring generations of artists, his two-handed tapping method and Frankenstrat guitar changed the music business forever. Tributes have been pouring in since he died in 2020. This year, the Netflix documentary Eruption, the Eddie Van Halen story, will be released. Echoing Eddie's memory, his brother Alex Van Halen released previously unheard tracks in 2024, showing fans how creative he was. With new songs and shows, Wolfgang Van Halen carries on his father's work. Unquestionably, Eddie had a significant effect on rock music, and his efforts will continue to inspire singers for many years to come. Michael Anthony's new musical ventures. 25 years later, Michael Anthony is still making waves in the rock world. Jimmy Anthony hinted at new Chickenfoot songs after a great tour with Sammy Hagar in 2024, which made fans of the band very happy. This possible return is greatly awaited by fans of the band Chickenfoot, which includes Joe Satriani and Chad Smith. Their last album was released in 2011. Additionally, Anthony has been recording with Hagar's Best of All Worlds tour band, announcing new music. His bass playing and backing singing are still famous in rock music. This year, Anthony will release a new song paying tribute to Eddie Van Halen. He continues to honor his past while exploring new musical territories. As proof of his lasting impact on rock, his reputation is still strong. The truth about Van Halen's breakup. People are still debating Van Halen's split, and new information emerged in 2025. The band broke up due to creative differences and internal problems, according to Sammy Hagar's latest comments. As a significant turning point, Hagar's differences about a greatest hits album caused issues within the group. Eddie Van Halen's health problems also made it difficult for the band to maintain its full pace. An interview not long ago revealed that Hagar's recent solo record, Marching to Mars, was greatly affected by the split. Additionally, a YouTube video delves deeper into the hidden story of their breakup, incorporating unique insights from former members. Although they're no longer together, Van Halen's influence lives on. Van Halen's members. Where are they now? Since Van Halen broke up in 2020, its former members have gone their separate ways. Formerly the band's rhythm section, Alex Van Halen has largely retired from music and is now working on personal projects. His autobiography, Brothers, is scheduled for publication. As Michael Anthony continues to perform with Sammy Hagar, he teases new songs with Chickenfoot. Famous for his flashy stage presence, David Lee Roth has hinted at retirement but remains active in the entertainment business. Eddie Van Halen's son, Wolfgang, has forged his path with Mammoth WVH, earning praise from critics. Although Van Halen isn't playing shows anymore, its members are still making rock music, so their influence lives on. Michael Anthony's reflections on his time in Van Halen. 70 years later, Michael Anthony has finally talked about his troubled relationship with Eddie Van Halen and his decision to leave the band. A 2025 conversation with Anthony revealed that the problems started during the 1984 record tour, when he was forced to sign away his future songwriting rights and earnings. Anthony's confidence dropped because Eddie was always criticizing his singing skills. In 2006, Anthony was replaced by Wolfgang Van Halen, which he saw as an error. Despite the problems, Anthony knows that Van Halen affects his business. The band's internal battles and his ongoing impact on rock music are showcased in a new documentary that features his comments. The Untold Stories of Van Halen's Members. An upcoming Netflix series, Van Halen Behind the Music, will finally reveal all of Van Halen's hidden stories in 2025. In a never-before-seen private video, the movie shows the band's inner tensions and artistic battles. Finding Eddie Van Halen's lost tapes in his files was one of the most shocking discoveries. Eddie Van Halen talks about the band's early struggles, including how difficult it was for them to make a living before they gained fame. Michael Anthony discusses his decision to leave, sharing the issues that led him to make the move. In addition, the documentary features exclusive interviews with David Lee Roth, shedding light on his complex relationship with Eddie. Understanding Van Halen's influence is enhanced by these stories, which demonstrate that their impact remains legendary. Michael Anthony's life beyond the bass guitar. Beyond his famous bass playing with Van Halen, Michael Anthony has had a significant impact on many other musicians. Despite the year 2025, he's still working in the music business, working with Sammy Hagar and announcing new projects with Chickenfoot. Anthony has built a successful business that includes his popular brand of hot sauce, Mad Anthony's. He also gives to charity and supports music instruction programs and causes. In recent comments, he discusses his work and bonds, which shows how down-to-earth he is, a quality that fans appreciate. Beyond Van Halen, a new documentary explores his life and career, highlighting his contributions to rock music and his activities outside of the music industry. His influence extends beyond the bass guitar, as evident in his legacy. Van Halen's influence on today's musicians. Even now in 2025, Van Halen's influence on current artists can't be denied. Their creative guitar techniques, especially Eddie Van Halen's two-handed tapping, continue to inspire new players. The band's lead-initiated, synth-infused rock sound from 1984 has inspired modern artists who blend rock with electronic elements. David Lee Roth's charming stage appearance has become a standard for frontmen, and many refer to him as an inspiration. Furthermore, Eddie's guitar sound and new equipment inventions are still used as examples by artists creating their sounds. Van Halen's legacy is being explored in a Netflix series, and a new tribute record featuring modern artists demonstrates that their impact is still felt in the rock music industry today. Michael Anthony's thoughts on Eddie Van Halen's genius. A tremendously gifted musician, Michael Anthony has always praised Eddie Van Halen's unmatched skill. Despite their unsolved problems, Anthony has reflected on Eddie's original guitar skills, especially his two-handed tapping, which revolutionized rock music forever. A 2025 interview with Anthony revealed that he and Eddie never had the chance to make amends before Eddie's death. However, he has shown a great deal of respect for Eddie's musical gifts, recognizing his exceptional ability to create entirely new sounds. A new video featuring Anthony's thoughts showcases Eddie's lasting influence on rock and its impact on future generations of artists. Eddie's inspiration continues to shape the business, demonstrating that his impact will last forever. The lasting impact of Van Halen's music. Even now in 2025, Van Halen's impact on rock music remains noticeable, and their legacy continues to shape modern artists. Many artists were influenced by their unique guitar styles, especially Eddie Van Halen's two-handed playing. Their catchy songs such as Jump and Panama remain standard fare on rock radio, demonstrating that they will always be popular. An upcoming Netflix documentary, Van Halen, a rock legend reborn, will explore the ongoing impact and legacy of the band on music. Additionally, Edward Van Halen's latest solo album, Resurgence, demonstrates his continued impact on the music industry. Even though Van Halen isn't touring again until 2025, their music remains popular, showing that their influence remains strong. Michael Anthony's side projects and collaborations. Beyond his work with Van Halen, Michael Anthony remains involved in the rock scene in 2025, exploring new musical projects. Fans of the supergroup he made with Sammy Hagar, Joe Satriani, and Chad Smith were excited when he recently hinted at new Chickenfoot music. Meanwhile, Anthony has been working on a music project with Hagar that includes new songs, such as an ode to Eddie Van Halen. Details about a side project he might be working on with Bon Jovi's Phil X and Aerosmith's traveling drummer John Douglas are still hard to come by. Anthony continues to create rock music with several upcoming projects, demonstrating that his impact extends far beyond his time in Van Halen. Van Halen's final years. What happened? In his final years, Van Halen experienced both moments of success and sadness. Following Eddie Van Halen's death in 2020, the band's future remained unknown. Alex Van Halen considered doing a tribute tour, but issues with David Lee Roth prevented it from happening. According to Sammy Hagar's thoughts on Eddie's later years, the musician stopped releasing songs in the 2000s because he was tired of being creative. Furthermore, Wolfgang Van Halen continued his musical journey by releasing new music with Mammoth WVH. In 2025, Van Halen's influence will still be strong, as a new record and world tour are planned. Van Halen's songs will always remain popular, even though the band is no longer together. Michael Anthony's legacy in rock music. In 2025, Michael Anthony's contributions to rock music will still be respected. He helped create Van Halen's signature sound as their bassist by playing strong bass lines and singing harmony behind the lead vocals. Beyond Van Halen, his work with Chickenfoot and with Sammy Hagar continues to carry on his legacy. Anthony's influential playing style continues to inspire new artists, demonstrating that his impact will endure forever. According to Michael Anthony, a closer look at the life and legacy, a new book, he went from being in Van Halen to having a solo career. Through his commitment to music and innovative ideas, he's earned a place among rock's greatest stars, demonstrating that his impact will last for many years to come. The truth behind Van Halen's success and struggles. Van Halen's rise to fame as a rock band was marked by numerous successes and difficulties. Their rise began in the 1970s when Eddie Van Halen's innovative guitar playing changed rock music forever. Although their 1984 record sealed their position as heroes, problems were growing behind the scenes. David Lee Roth left due to issues with Eddie, and Sammy Hagar's tenure brought new success, but also conflicts within the band. With interviews and video footage that have never been seen before, Netflix's Van Halen Behind the Music documentary, released in 2025, explores their highs and lows. Their breakup was caused by Eddie's health problems and artistic differences within the band, but their legacy lives on, demonstrating that Van Halen's influence on rock music will endure forever. If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon